Stop for a moment and pay attention, because what is unfolding today carries a weight far greater than an ordinary date on a calendar. This is not simply another lunar movement passing quietly overhead. It is not one of those astrological moments that drifts by unnoticed while life continues as usual. There are days when celestial events create subtle ripples, and then there are days like today. Days that feel as though the sky itself is drawing a line between what was and what comes next. Today, June 17th, belongs to the second category. As the moon crosses into Leo, it immediately enters a field of intense interaction. It meets Venus and simultaneously moves into opposition with Pluto. Yet even that description barely captures the magnitude of what is occurring. Because while these planetary dynamics are unfolding, a rare visual phenomenon is taking place above us, something many people living today have never personally witnessed. The moon will move directly in front of Venus, completely obscuring it from view during daylight hours. Across much of the Americas, observers will be able to witness Venus vanish behind the moon, as though the planet associated with love, beauty, attraction, and desire has been temporarily erased from the heavens. Pause and really sit with that image. The symbol of affection disappearing behind the raw emotional force of the moon. The language of astrology often sounds metaphorical, but in this case the symbolism mirrors a literal event taking place in the sky. What is above is reflecting something profound below. And while everyone will feel echoes of this energy in some form, there is one zodiac sign destined to experience this shift more deeply than all the others. Not through suffering, not through destruction, not through the chaos people often expect when Pluto becomes involved. Instead, through a transformation so significant that it alters the way their story unfolds from this point forward. We will arrive at that revelation later, but first there is something essential you need to understand. Nothing about today emerged out of nowhere. This moment has been building quietly beneath the surface for days. In fact, the emotional intensity many people are experiencing right now can be traced back to June 13th. If you have recently felt unusually restless, strangely emotional, unexpectedly hopeful one moment and uncertain the next, if your heart has been pulling you toward possibilities that your mind struggles to explain, there is a reason. What seems random is actually part of a carefully unfolding sequence. Think back to June 13th, when Venus entered Leo. The atmosphere shifted almost immediately. A subtle hunger awakened within people. The desire for greater passion became harder to ignore. Relationships seemed brighter. Attention felt more meaningful. People wanted experiences that felt alive. Venus, in Leo, encourages the heart to express itself boldly. It seeks warmth, recognition, affection, and authenticity. Under this influence, ordinary interactions begin carrying emotional significance. Many people found themselves wanting deeper connections, stronger feelings, and more vibrant experiences. Then June 15th arrived, bringing a sextile between Venus and Uranus. Suddenly, the emotional landscape became charged with surprise. Unexpected encounters appeared. Invitations emerged without warning. New attractions surfaced. Messages arrived at precisely the right moment. Possibilities that seemed unlikely suddenly felt attainable. There was a sense that life might deliver something exciting at any second. The energy felt spontaneous, unpredictable, and exhilarating. Many reached toward these opportunities without hesitation because the atmosphere itself encouraged risk, curiosity, and openness. Yet the story did not stop there. On June the 16th, Venus formed a trine with Neptune, and the emotional current changed once again. What had felt exciting now became enchanting. Interactions seemed more meaningful. Conversations carried emotional depth. Creative inspiration intensified. Hope expanded. For some people, romantic feelings blossomed rapidly. For others, a forgotten dream suddenly returned with renewed intensity. Neptune wrapped reality in a veil of possibility, making everything appear softer, more magical, and more emotionally compelling. It was easy to believe that every feeling pointed toward destiny. It was easy to trust what the heart wanted to see. Yet beneath the beauty of those moments, another force was already approaching. The dream was never the destination. It was preparation. Because today, June 17th, Venus stands opposite Pluto. And Pluto operates according to entirely different rules. Pluto is not interested in appearances. Pluto is not concerned with fantasy, excitement, or emotional comfort. Pluto searches beneath surfaces. It investigates what lies hidden underneath attraction, underneath desire, underneath every story people tell themselves. The question Pluto brings is simple, but impossible to avoid. Is this genuine? Is this built on truth? Is this strong enough to survive exposure? That is why today feels so powerful. The excitement sparked by Uranus, the dreamlike beauty amplified by Neptune, and the passionate confidence awakened by Venus in Leo all arrive at a moment of reckoning. 4 days of emotional momentum now collide with the deepest truth available this month. For some, that truth will strengthen what already exists. For others, it will reveal what was never as solid as it appeared. Either way, clarity becomes unavoidable. And while people focus on charts, transits, and interpretations, another layer of meaning unfolds overhead. During the daylight hours today, the moon will move directly across Venus, causing the brilliant planet to disappear from sight. Yet what vanishes may not be what people expect. Because sometimes the disappearance of something beautiful is not a loss. Sometimes it is the moment when illusion steps aside and reality finally reveals itself. And that realization is where the next part of this story begins. What makes this moment so impossible to ignore is that the event unfolding above is not merely a symbolic concept designed for astrologers to interpret. It is something visible, measurable, and undeniably real. Across regions including the United States, Canada, portions of Brazil and Venezuela, people who look toward the sky will have the opportunity to witness Venus disappear behind the moon. One moment the brilliant planet is visible, and the next it is gone, concealed by a delicate lunar crescent that is only a few days into its cycle. This phenomenon is known as a lunar occultation, and occurrences like this are far from common. Adding even more significance to the event, the Moon Venus and the Beehive star cluster will occupy the same area of the heavens, creating a celestial arrangement striking enough that ancient sky watchers would likely have regarded it as a message demanding attention. Yet while the visual display itself is extraordinary, it is the deeper meaning behind it that deserves your focus. Think about what Venus represents. Venus governs attraction, connection, affection, harmony, and the ways people seek approval and maintain peace. It is associated with the polished parts of ourselves, the carefully presented version we offer to others, the image we believe will be accepted, appreciated, or loved. Venus often reflects the ways people smooth over conflict, hide discomfort, and present a beautiful surface even when something deeper remains unresolved. Now consider what happens today. The moon, which symbolizes emotional truth, instinctive reactions, personal needs, and the vulnerable inner self, moves directly in front of Venus and obscures its light. The emotional reality underneath becomes impossible to ignore. The authentic self temporarily overpowers the carefully maintained image. Suddenly, the needs buried beneath politeness begin demanding attention. The feelings hidden beneath composure become louder than the performance. The parts of yourself that have remained silent start pushing forward. It is as though the sky is illustrating a lesson in real time. Emotional honesty is taking precedence over appearances. What has been hidden inside can no longer remain comfortably behind the scenes, and the timing amplifies this message dramatically. This occultation occurs on the very same day that Venus stands opposite Pluto. That detail matters because Pluto is not a gentle influence. Pluto is associated with excavation, revelation, transformation, and psychological truth. While the occultation temporarily removes Venus from view, Pluto simultaneously begins questioning everything Venus represents. The result is not merely concealment, it is exposure, it is examination. It is a confrontation between what is genuine and what has only appeared genuine. For anyone who has been maintaining an illusion within a relationship, this energy becomes difficult to avoid. If there are unresolved emotions beneath the surface, they may rise unexpectedly. If compromises have gone too far, if personal needs have been repeatedly ignored, if someone has been pretending to feel content while carrying disappointment, the pressure to remain silent becomes increasingly unsustainable. Masks that once felt comfortable begin feeling restrictive. Emotional roles that once seemed necessary start feeling exhausting. The old methods of preserving harmony at any cost begin breaking down. For many people, this may feel less like a choice and more like an inevitability. Something inside simply refuses to stay hidden any longer. As the day progresses, another layer of intensity emerges. When the moon enters Leo during the morning hours, a different emotional current begins moving through the collective atmosphere. At first it may be subtle. Perhaps it feels like an unusual desire to express yourself more openly. Perhaps it appears as a growing awareness that you no longer want to remain in the background. Leo is deeply connected to the heart, to personal identity, to creative expression, and to the desire to be acknowledged for who you truly are. Under a Leo moon, people often become more aware of how much they long to be recognized, appreciated, and understood. Yet today, that desire extends beyond ordinary attention. This is not about collecting praise or seeking validation. It reaches something much deeper. Many people will discover a profound yearning to be seen in a way they have not experienced before. Not for their accomplishments, not for their image, not for the role they play. They want their authentic self to be recognized. They want someone to look beyond appearances and understand what is really happening inside. This longing becomes a powerful undercurrent, running through conversations, interactions, and emotional reactions throughout the day. What makes the experience especially intense is Pluto's involvement. Pluto transforms this desire into something unavoidable. Superficial recognition loses its appeal. Empty compliments fail to satisfy. Performative gestures feel strangely hollow. The soul seeks something deeper, something real. And when that deeper recognition is absent, emotional reactions may become stronger than expected. Small disappointments can feel disproportionately painful. Minor misunderstandings can touch hidden insecurities. Some people may become defensive, others may withdraw. Some may express frustration they themselves do not fully understand. Yet beneath every reaction lies the same essential fear. The fear that the people who matter most do not truly see who they are. The fear that their deepest emotional reality remains invisible. As if all of this were not enough, another astrological factor enters the story just before the Venus-Pluto opposition reaches its peak. During the afternoon, approximately 90 minutes beforehand, Venus forms a challenging aspect with Black Moon Lilith. This detail is often overlooked, yet it introduces an entirely different layer of emotional complexity. Black Moon Lilith symbolizes the parts of ourselves that were rejected, suppressed, or pushed aside. It reflects the qualities that once attracted criticism, the emotions that were deemed excessive, and the traits that others encouraged us to hide. Lilith speaks to the experience of learning that certain aspects of our identity might provoke discomfort in others. Over time, many people respond by burying those parts of themselves. Not because those qualities are wrong, but because they were taught that expressing them carried consequences. Today, that buried energy begins to stir. Old memories may surface. Forgotten insecurities may reappear. Long-suppressed desires may demand acknowledgement. The voice that was silenced years ago may suddenly become impossible to ignore. And as Venus, Pluto, the Moon, and Lilith weave together in the same unfolding story, a powerful realization begins emerging from beneath the surface. The qualities you once hid to gain acceptance may be the very qualities asking to be reclaimed. And that realization is where the next phase of this unfolding transformation begins. What makes this particular activation so powerful is that Black Moon Lilith is not being awakened in isolation. It is being stirred at the exact moment the most emotionally charged relationship dynamics of the month reach their peak. That detail changes everything. Because when Lilith rises, the process rarely unfolds in a comfortable or socially acceptable way. The truth that has been buried does not politely ask for permission to emerge. It does not wait for the perfect moment. It does not carefully arrange itself into words that make everyone feel safe. Instead, it pushes forward with a force that can surprise even the person experiencing it. The need to stop pretending, the need to stop editing yourself, the need to stop shrinking to fit inside someone else's expectations can become so overwhelming that silence is no longer possible. For some, this may appear as a sudden boundary that catches others completely off guard. For others, it may emerge as a refusal to continue tolerating situations that have quietly drained their spirit for far too long. What has been held back for months or even years may finally demand expression. And while that can feel unsettling, it is important to understand what is truly happening. This is not emotional chaos for the sake of chaos. This is the moment when authenticity becomes stronger than fear. Yet there is another reality many people will have to face. Not every relationship can withstand that level of honesty. Some connections were established under conditions that required self-sacrifice. Some were maintained through silence, compromise, and the gradual abandonment of personal truth. There are relationships that function only when one person consistently makes themselves smaller. There are dynamics that survive only because someone continues suppressing their needs. When Lilith becomes active, those arrangements come under pressure. The foundation is tested. If a relationship depends on self-erasure, that weakness becomes impossible to ignore. The discomfort that follows is not evidence that something has gone wrong. In many cases, it is evidence that something long overdue is finally occurring. Lilith carries the energy of reclamation. She represents the parts of yourself that were pushed aside in order to gain approval. And once those parts begin returning, they rarely agree to disappear again. If you notice yourself feeling unusually strong, unusually unwilling to compromise, unusually determined to protect your truth today, do not assume that something is broken. What you are feeling may be the first signs of freedom. What appears disruptive on the surface may actually be the beginning of emotional liberation. And as these powerful energies continue building throughout the day, another chapter of the story begins to reveal itself. Because although every sign will experience some aspect of this transformation, there are 3 signs standing directly in the center of the cosmic current. These signs are not merely being challenged by today's astrology. They are being positioned for visibility, recognition, and elevation. The spotlight is moving toward them, whether they are prepared for it or not. And if your sun, moon, or rising sign falls within this group, the messages arriving today deserve your full attention. First comes Leo. Earlier, there was mention of one sign that would experience this energy more intensely than all the others. Not through suffering, not through turmoil, but through a shift so undeniable that it becomes impossible to overlook. Leo, this is that sign. The Moon and Venus are both moving through your first house, the area associated with identity, self-expression, appearance, and personal presence. Under this influence, something remarkable happens. Your energy becomes difficult to ignore. You may notice people responding to you differently. Attention seems to find you without effort. Conversations naturally gravitate in your direction. Opportunities for visibility increase. It is as though your presence carries greater weight than usual. Yet this influence is not simply about popularity or admiration. There is a deeper lesson unfolding beneath the surface. Pluto stands opposite this energy from your seventh house of partnerships and significant relationships. This creates a powerful question that the universe wants answered. As your light grows brighter, who deserves access to it? Not everyone currently occupying space in your world is there for the right reasons. Some people appreciate your energy. Others simply consume it. Some celebrate your success. Others quietly benefit from your willingness to dim yourself. Pluto's role today is to reveal the difference. Hidden motives become easier to recognize. Unequal dynamics become impossible to ignore. The relationships that encourage your growth become clearer. So do the relationships that thrive only when you remain smaller than your potential. This transit invites Leo to stop asking whether their light is acceptable. Instead, it asks whether the people around them are capable of honoring that light without trying to control it. The more honestly you express yourself, the easier it becomes to recognize who belongs beside you. And beginning today, that recognition accelerates. The second sign standing beneath today's powerful spotlight is Aries. For Aries, the Leo moon activates the fifth house, the area connected to creativity, romance, pleasure, passion, and self-expression. If there has been a part of you longing for inspiration, longing for excitement, longing to create something meaningful, today's energy arrives like a spark meeting dry tinder. Momentum builds rapidly. New ideas emerge unexpectedly. Creative projects suddenly reveal a path forward. Romantic feelings intensify. What seemed uncertain yesterday can become undeniable today. The fifth house is not subtle. It seeks expression. It seeks movement. It seeks experiences that make you feel fully alive. With both Venus and the Moon energizing this part of your chart, the emotional and creative currents become exceptionally strong. Inspiration may arrive in ways that feel impossible to ignore. A conversation may open a new chapter. An idea may arrive with unusual clarity. A connection may deepen faster than anticipated, yet Pluto ensures that growth comes with a choice. The opposition stretches across the axis connecting your fifth house and 11th house, highlighting the tension between personal joy and collective expectations. In practical terms, this means following your heart could alter certain social dynamics. Pursuing a creative vision could challenge group opinions. Expressing yourself honestly could make others uncomfortable. A romantic development could affect an existing circle of friends. The pressure to choose between authenticity and approval becomes impossible to avoid. But Aries possesses a unique relationship with truth. Once something feels real, hesitation rarely survives for long. The uncertainty that has lingered around a decision may finally begin dissolving. In its place emerges the courage that Aries is known for, the willingness to move forward despite uncertainty, the willingness to trust instinct over fear. And as that fire awakens, another important piece of this cosmic story is preparing to reveal itself in what comes next. The kind of courage awakening now is not the cautious kind that waits until every answer is known. It is not the kind that asks for approval, searches for guarantees, or checks whether everyone else agrees first. It is the kind that moves because something inside already knows the time has come. It trusts the pull before it sees the destination. It chooses the leap before the bridge appears. And today, that energy becomes impossible to ignore. When you finally decide to move toward what is real, toward what is aligned, toward what calls to your heart instead of your fear, something remarkable happens. The people who genuinely belong in your life do not pull away. They move closer. They recognize the truth of who you are and celebrate it. They cheer not because you became someone new, but because you finally stopped pretending to be someone smaller. And that brings us to Sagittarius, the third sign standing directly beneath today's powerful cosmic current. Sagittarius, there is something important you need to understand. The weight you have been carrying since the final days of May was never meant to be permanent. The delays, the frustrations, the feeling that progress kept slipping through your fingers no matter how hard you tried, all of it has been leading to this moment. You may have felt as though every step forward required twice the effort. You may have questioned whether the vision you were chasing still mattered. You may have found yourself emotionally exhausted in a way that went beyond ordinary fatigue, a deeper weariness that touched your spirit rather than your body. Yet what seemed like stagnation was actually preparation. What felt like resistance was shaping something within you. And today marks the beginning of a shift. The Leo moon activates your ninth house, the domain associated with truth, wisdom, belief systems, higher learning, personal growth, and the larger purpose guiding your journey. This is the place in your chart, connected to possibility, expansion, and the future version of yourself that has been waiting to emerge. With both the moon and Venus illuminating this area, something begins to come into focus. It may feel as though a puzzle that has confused you for weeks suddenly reveals its pattern. It may feel like understanding arrives all at once after a long period of uncertainty. The lessons hidden inside recent challenges begin forming a coherent picture. What once felt painful starts making sense. The experiences that tested you begin transforming into knowledge you can apply, share, teach, or communicate to others. There is a feeling of rediscovery here, as though you are reconnecting with a deeper truth that was never truly lost. Pluto contributes something equally important from the opposite side of the chart. Rather than simply offering encouragement, Pluto removes the obstacles standing between you and your potential. Limiting beliefs begin losing their power. Old narratives about what you deserve start dissolving. The internal voices that questioned your worth, your vision, or your ability to succeed no longer carry the authority they once held. Pluto works through transformation, and today that transformation targets doubt itself. The stories that kept you confined to a smaller version of your future begin breaking apart. As this process unfolds, opportunities may begin appearing in unexpected forms. Themes connected to teaching, publishing, travel, education, or sharing your perspective with a broader audience become especially significant. What arrives may not resemble the opportunity you imagined. In fact, it may initially feel intimidating. Yet Sagittarius has always shared a unique relationship with the unknown. Deep down, you understand something many people forget. The most meaningful journeys rarely begin with certainty. They begin with trust. They begin with the willingness to step forward before every detail is revealed. If an invitation appears, if a door opens, if a possibility emerges that excites and unsettles you at the same time, pay attention. The universe did not guide you through recent challenges merely to leave you standing still. It guided you through them so that when this moment arrived, you would be prepared to move. But there is an even larger reason today's events matter. What is happening now is not the final destination. It is the clearing process before the next chapter begins. In 13 days, on June 30th, Jupiter enters Leo. This is a major astrological shift. Jupiter, the planet associated with expansion, growth, opportunity, abundance, and long-term development, will begin amplifying everything Leo represents. Creativity becomes larger. Visibility increases. Expressions of love become bolder. Confidence grows stronger. The desire to live authentically becomes more difficult to ignore. Yet Jupiter operates according to an important principle. It expands what already exists. If a foundation is strong, Jupiter strengthens it. If a foundation is unstable, Jupiter magnifies the instability. This is precisely why today's Venus-Pluto opposition matters so much. The purpose of today's intensity is not punishment, it is preparation. The universe is identifying every weak structure before Jupiter arrives. Every false role, every unhealthy dynamic, every relationship built on appearances rather than truth, every mask maintained through fear, all of it is being examined now, because it would not support the opportunities waiting ahead. What feels like loss today may actually be protection. What feels like disruption may actually be construction taking place beneath the surface. The stage is not being destroyed, it is being cleared. Space is being created for something more authentic to emerge. And what begins growing during Leo season under Jupiter's influence carries the potential to reshape the course of the entire year. That is why today's emotional intensity should not be mistaken for a breakdown. It is a transition. It is a threshold. It is the process of releasing what cannot accompany you into the future that is forming. So allow the unnecessary to fall away. Allow outdated versions of yourself to dissolve. Allow false structures to collapse if they must. Because what waits on the other side requires room to arrive. Before this day fully unfolds, there is one final reflection worth carrying with you. Take a quiet moment and ask yourself a simple but deeply revealing question. In what area of my life have I been reducing my light so that someone else can remain comfortable? Do not rush to answer. Do not force a conclusion. Simply hold the question. Let it settle into your awareness. Let it travel with you as the moon moves through Leo. Then notice what rises within you. Notice the emotions, memories, and realizations that emerge. Often the first honest feeling contains more truth than hours of analysis, because today's sky is offering a powerful lesson. The occultation of Venus by the moon illustrates what happens when emotional truth becomes stronger than appearances. The opposition between Venus and Pluto reveals what happens when hidden dynamics are exposed. The activation of Lilith demonstrates what happens when suppressed parts of the self begin demanding expression. Together, these energies are leading each of us toward a more authentic version of who we are meant to be. And for Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius, that invitation arrives with particular force. The universe is not merely offering attention, it is offering an opportunity to step fully into your own authority. Yet no one else can claim that place for you. No one else can decide your value. No one else can grant permission for you to become who you already are. The choice belongs to you. The lesson of the Leo moon has never been about earning recognition through performance. It has always been about discovering the courage to exist so truthfully, so openly, and so completely that your very presence becomes an expression of confidence, authenticity, and joy. This day carries that invitation. What happens next depends on whether you are willing to answer it.